Hey folks, it's Darth checking in with you again. Friendly tip of the day, drink more water. However much water you've drank, drink more. However much not water you've drank, drink less of that, replace it with water. Friendly tip of the day. So last night I posted up 3 videos. I gave just immediate reactions to each episode as I watched them. And that was a really cool thing to get to do. It's just very fast-paced, not very in-depth, But overall, my takeaway was... Oh, let me block that for you. There you go. Overall, my takeaway was that the show was enjoyable, but that it was flawed. At least in the first 3 episodes, Once we get to see a full season and see the narrative structure of a season put together, I think that maybe that will affect the impression that I got of these first 3 episodes. So I do want to reserve some judgment there. But those first 3 episodes are what non-fans of the Wheel of Time are going to see. And within this next week, they're going to make their initial impressions on. So, for those people, just so you know, this video is not going to talk about any spoilers for the book series. It's only going to talk about the 3 episodes. And hopefully in a little more depth. Because, honestly, I don't think it would be incredibly helpful to talk about the book series in this video. The show is so different that those comparisons might have less relevance than a lot of us thought they would. So, the very first thing that comes to mind, I was thinking about this last night after I went to bed, and I wrote it down so that way I would remember for myself. I can't help but wonder about this. Why does HBO always have better CGI than like Netflix or Amazon? Or they just kill it on their CG department. I don't know who they've got hired over there, but that person's doing a great job. That was just kind of like tinkling around back here, and I don't know, I can't help but think about that a little bit. Which is not to say that the CG is bad in this show. I loved the use of practical effects. I got kind of a Krampus feel from a lot of it, actually, where it's not meant to be real, but it's meant to evoke a certain look or, feeling. And I think that is fine, but I don't see that being sustainably the way that they approach what a Trolloc looks like, or how channeling looks if this show continues on for 7 more seasons. I can't imagine that happening throughout the length of the show. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves and develops, and if in hindsight maybe they try to distance themselves a little bit from some of the very theatrical look of some of this stuff, make it a little simpler and a little cleaner for themselves. I kind of expect that. Another thing I'll say here, and these are really my only critical bits. So I try to put on, I'm not a filmmaker, I'm not a writer or anything. At the closest you could call me would be to say that I'm a critic, but I'm not attempting to be critical for the sake of being critical here. I love the Wheel of Time, and I want it to be at its best, and so I hope that something that I can say here is maybe, valuable or has some insight, and that it resonates with an audience, so the other thing that I was thinking about, and really more so this morning as I was getting ready for work, was that there's been a big Netflixification of movies, if I can make up a word there. And what I mean by that is that a lot of movies are very popcorny nowadays. You are meant to consume them and be entertained and enjoy them, and then they're gone. And that was the end of that experience. And it makes it very digestible, you know. You can go back and you can rewatch something like that and go, oh, okay, that was good. And then you're done with it. And the thing is that that seems to have like proliferated throughout TV and film in the last few years, I think. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I think that there are plenty of movies that are good popcorn movies, right? But staying power is important for a big series, especially if you know going into season 1, if you know going into episode 1 that you have 80 episodes, 70 maybe, something like that, episodes worth of content to create. You need, instead of people eating popcorn, you want to be TV steak. You want people to have to digest what you just put out there. And great TV shows do that, I keep hearkening back to Game of Thrones, even though as a book reader I find the comparison somewhat distasteful, because they're very different shows and books. They're very different books for sure. But I keep coming back to it because that is sort of the gold standard for what a fantasy TV show looks like, at least up until its final season. And Game of Thrones had meat, admittedly, it took through season 1, right? It took until Ned Stark got beheaded before Game of Thrones really took off, right? That combined with the Red Wedding down the road, etc. By season 3 or 4, everybody was talking Game of Thrones. It was cultural. But that's the exact same reason I'm going to give this a season, right? Admittedly, I'm going to watch all the seasons, okay? But before I can give proper, here is my thought on everything, the whole season does have to be out, because I understand that they're building towards something and that we haven't seen it yet. I just wish that the first 3 episodes left more of a hook. I will say the acting is one of the big dangers when you cast a bunch of people who are relatively unknown, and the actors are all great in this show. I'm very fond of the casting decisions. The only thing I was critical about last night in my 3 episodes was that when Moiraine first introduced us to the big impact of channeling, she did these kind of wacky looking giant motions. They're just very exaggerated. And that is not to say that I don't enjoy Rosamund Pike's performance. I think that she's excellent as Moiraine. As a matter of fact, after having slept on it for a night, I think that the 3rd episode, where she is by and large not in it, was probably the weakest narratively. She drives a lot of our plot, and I definitely felt her absence in hindsight. Similarly, anytime that she's on screen, that moment where she looks up at Lan and she says, "You've killed us," she just crushes it. You get so much out of her character. Every sentence that she says feels important. I like that she was able to cross Nynaeve off of her list in episode 1 with that conversation they had. A little less subtle than what happens in the books, but that's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world, So, overall, I still think those first 3 books are good. I think that the best episode, first 3 episodes are good, God. I think that the best was episode 2, and that it had some really good hooks. I was confused that they released 3 episodes, and episode 3 meandered a little bit. But we've got our cast set up, we've got their story set up. It does lead well into an episode 4. So, oh, and also, if I didn't say it enough last night, the guy playing Tom Maryland kills it. That character is awesome already. Already know that he's going to be a fan favorite. So, yeah. Past this, I think that anything that we talk about would be book spoilery, and I'd be comparing differences between them. I am likely going to make a video about that, but this probably isn't the place to do so. I will say, however, if you are someone who is new to the series, you've been with Wheel of Time for 10 years, whatever your situation is, but especially if you're new to the series, tomorrow between 11 and 1 p.m. EST, 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am going to do a live Q&A session for anyone who has questions about what they saw in the show. If you want to get more content, if you want to interact with someone who is admittedly self-proclaimed but a Wheel of Time expert, I've read the series a dozen times. I've got over 25,000 posts on a fan forum. If you want to talk with somebody and just learn more, you have questions like, what are Trollocs? Which is what I saw. It's Trolloc, by the way. I saw that from somebody the other day. Or if you want to talk about, show and book differences, we'll have a section for that as well. Come join me tomorrow, 11 to 1. I will be here, and I'll see you there.